in.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in my case, the person wasn't so unfamiliar to me, which might come across in the interview. Yeah.
They were, or they weren't, sorry.
They are familiar with me, yeah. But that added a sort of an element of play to it, which I felt like I needed for the first bit of homework.
Yeah, that playfulness, we want to have that playfulness, and hopefully you'll have that playfulness with anyone and everyone that you meet. So,
are we loud enough? Sorry, just to check, because we've got some kind of message here. Are we loud enough? Everyone heard everything? No. Oh, it's a mixed reviews.
I'm finding the sound effects are winning.
Oh, okay.
Mike's a bit low. Margot's okay.
Okay.
Okay, move that one away.
I often am a bit low in the morning. Right, which one's me? This one. Hello. Anyway, I'll sort that out. Let's just carry on the conversation.
So the sense of familiarity is, anyway, I'm not going to say anything now, but thank you, Teddy. Okay, who's next? Who wants to go next on this? How did you find recording your thing? Oh, Timna, you've got your finger. Go ahead and mute yourself, because I'm sure you know you are muted.
I can do that. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? It's super loud. I'm sorry. I'm like just 5 minutes away from Aberfeldy Street. So, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So so thanks for actually this task we had to do. I really enjoyed it, and thinking about whom I'm going to ask was super interesting. I was walking on the street, asking myself, okay, whom am I going to ask? And I didn't feel like for 2 days, I didn't feel like, oh, I didn't see anyone like I really would like to get in contact with. And I then asked someone I didn't know in the Scratch Hub in a co-working space where I work. And I loved actually to get in contact with the people, this person, because not only because we had a super nice conversation, we also like had immediately from this question which I asked her how she thinks her identity was built, and from one second to the other we had like a super deep conversation, and I think like this the ice broke from one second to the other, which was like super interesting and super nice. So I thought like, actually, I think I should ask people more often just some random questions, because I think it was not even like about the question. It was more like for myself, the experience of getting in contact with people I really don't know. Yeah.
That sounds really good. Can you hear me now? Is that okay? Because I think I just had a button pressed the wrong way. Should be, yes, okay, good. That sounds really good. I mean, in a way, that's all the things we want you to do. We want, part of what we like to do at the People Speak is to have deep conversations with people we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, so that's really great. That's happening already, even after session 1.
Nice one. We'll listen to your recording later, Timna, but we'll let you get to the studio first. But who else wants to share how they found the task? Margarita, did you want to jump in?
Thank you. Hi. For me, I discovered that I can't approach people at the street. I can ask questions, but thinking about recording them, I didn't do that. So I was at an event for organized by South London Refugees Association. So we just chatted, and the woman who was speaking, and that was another quite deep conversation, and she was an asylum seeker and she refused to be recorded. I asked her. So for me, the question is, how did you manage to ask people to be recorded and to get a positive response? How did you manage to make them recorded? So like that. So people were very, she was absolutely open and she told a lot of things, but not to be recorded. Of course, she's an asylum seeker, probably that's the issue.
I mean, I guess that's part of that is a bit of a question of trust.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, I think as well, there's a weird thing, and I wouldn't normally talk about this just yet, but there, you know, part of that interaction is people's expectation of you. So if you're kind of expecting them to find a problem with the recording rather than, you know, when we say we're going to record this, it's a kind of implication we're doing it for that person, not for us, if you see what I mean. So it's also about coming across as somebody that's, trying to help, I suppose, rather than someone that's trying to get something from the person, if that makes sense.
But I mean, I don't know if we want to kind of do feedback as we kind of go around, but do we want to do feedback now or maybe?
Well, I mean, let's just, for another couple of minutes, if there's any other points, and then I think we just go straight on to the clips.
Okay, fine. Great. And then fine, because I just wanted to say, because you, Margarita, because of the kind of recording, you submitted almost like the highlights of the conversation, and we really enjoyed reading that. I was kind of curious because you obviously started with like a one question, maybe just like an opening gambit with the person you spoke to, but then I was kind of personally interested how your questions kind of developed. Did you, did you just kind of, what kinds of questions, you asked or you found yourself asking, not necessarily the ones that you premeditated coming into it, but what kind of questions you found yourself asking? Do you remember? I'm just very curious.
I joined her, this woman, and she chatted with someone else. And at that event, they presented the zine produced on the basis of their activities during COVID, and they made this Killed and something else. So she was explaining something, and she mentioned community, and I just joined that conversation. Asked them if I can join, and started asking questions about community and blah blah blah. It must be recorded, of course. I don't remember. I was not prepared for that.
No, that's okay, but it's interesting. So kind of,
So it's absolutely, it was like sort of a flow.
No, that sounds really good. But thank you, Margarita. Thanks for sharing your bit. Who else wants to kind of say how they found the task? Maybe from another part of the world. Anyone. We can pick on you. It's not a problem to us, obviously.
Look, Isaac wants to come in. Thank you, Isaac.
So I would have to first apologize. I did not send in my video because someone tried to snatch my phone and then it fell down and all my videos were on the phone. So now I'm trying to fix it. But the experience was great. Part of some of the things I faced was I had people were scared of telling me the issues, some of the problems they're facing, or if I posed a question, it was very hard for them to answer why. Some of them were saying that if you maybe discussed a problem, then the other members of the community would not be very happy with the fact that you've mentioned about these issues and stuff. And then I also had other people that were asking for facilitation. It was a very good experience for me. Yes.
What did you ask them, Isaac? Sorry to hear about your phone. That sounds awful.
It's okay.
While you were doing the project, this happened?
It was after the project. That is when I was just interacting. So some of the things were, the areas that I visited, you would see that there's a lot of they don't have toilets, they don't have clean water, they don't have proper ways of disposal. They don't have where to put their trash, polythene and what. And actually, I've taken very amazing videos, but I don't know if I would be able to send them sometime. Yeah, but some of the questions were things that I would see straight away, and I would ask in that direction, like no toilets, no proper drainage systems, no proper transportation, something like that.
Yeah.
So I can imagine. By the way, we've got people arriving in the studio. Welcome, people. Grab yourself a chair and welcome. And settle in. And there are some snacks, and you know where the drinks are. That's teas and coffees, obviously.
Okay.
But I'm really interested in what you're saying, Isaac. That maybe, am I right in saying that what I'm picking up from what you're saying, that people maybe the subject was a bit like quite personal or quite, I don't know, like a sensitive, so maybe people didn't want to talk about it to start with, or
was there a little bit of,
was there some kind of like a pushback, a bit of resistance from people to getting engaged in the conversation with you? Did I get that?
It's a mix. You know, you find some people that are very happy to share and are very happy to kind of like find solutions, and then you find those that they don't want to talk about it, and also the fact that people don't really know, regardless of how much you try to explain to them, they don't know exactly what you're going to use the videos for. You know, basing on also experience that we've had people that have come into such communities, have taken videos and have used them to make money, you know, kind of like forge, some of them will disguise as people that have projects. They'll go and, you know, so that is where it may be coming from, something like that.
Right, so it's a kind of, not sure how you're going to use the recording. I guess, that's a consideration. I think this wasn't actually in the session itself, but we did talk about it after the session in the studio with a few people who were here, and that was about consent. And I think in the People Speak, we kind of go for this kind of dynamic consent. It's okay to kind of to agree to something, and then if you want to withdraw or not agree to something, then that's just kind of how it goes. But interesting. Maybe
I think there is a question about, you know, how to earn the trust, but I think part of it as well is just also, and this is from a lot of experience of doing Vox Pops out on the street, is that you also give across you have to sort of somehow perform a trusting persona, if that makes sense. That's not the whole story. Obviously, you need to get people on your side and get them to trust you, and sometimes that's about building up a relationship as well. But I think there is something you can do just to, you know, perform that sense of trust.
Louise, you had your hand up. Do you have anything on that?
Would it have been different if you'd written down what they were saying rather than recording? If you'd asked them a question and then discussed it and then maybe written down the main points, like with a sort of survey or something, would that have made them feel more comfortable, do you think?
Question to anyone or anyone specific?
Well, for Isaac, maybe, because it was his experience, but also to anyone. I mean, I know it's you don't get the nuances or the details, but if it's a question of collecting something as opposed to nothing, and maybe that's less intimidating. I don't know. A sort of question, I suppose, for Isaac.
So because consent is very important when you're going to take a video. Before I even take a video of anyone, I first have to, you know, introduce myself, tell them briefly what I'm going to do, and, you know, what I'm doing. Explain a little bit about Cake You Have, Talkaoke, and then, you know, if they're happy to record a video. Some of them don't even want to engage with you, not, you know, whether there is a camera, there is no camera, they just don't want. And then you'll find those that are very happy to share, regardless of whether there is a camera or not. Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be a mixture of people, you know, I think for this, you know, maybe further on project, we'll look at some of those issues, but in a way, we wanted to just start off really with those people that are going to be engaged. So, you know, like maybe, Isaac, you've gone like quite far down the line, and it's just really this first session is more about the conversational flow. mean, later on we will talk a lot more about how to bring those people in and how to get them on site, on your side, and feel that they are contributing to something. I think part of it is about, you know, ownership of that video as well. Who owns the video? In a way, we're saying they own the video, or they own it with us. Anyway, I think we need to get on and have a look at some of these clips. Or have a listen, should I say? Because they're audio clips. Yeah.
We're not going to go around how people
Well,
found it?
we can do, but I think we're just running out of time a little bit too, because we want to listen to the clips, we want to do the exercise, and then talk about the next thing.
Okay.
Unless does anyone want to say something about how they found it very quickly, and then we'll move on to this. Okay.
Hassan, nice one.
Yeah. Hassan, go on.
It's actually,
Welcome.
we're going to play it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like in the beginning, I moved here, like right now I'm in Cologne, I'm not in Uganda. And before I was like doing a small comparison between some topics like my country and here. So this challenge was really interesting for me, but the biggest challenge was to find a person to interview, because I was doing it on a personal level. And I was just comparing like with my own view, and people like there are some differences between the people here and the people at home, and it was somehow like hard to confront people because I don't know what's in their mind, and also the language is different. But I actually on this run, I actually noticed that if you ask someone like English, then they open up better, because they know that you don't know English and somehow you're stuck. So this process taught me, and that's when I found the lady who I interviewed. But I also wanted to I wanted to make her feel safe, so I didn't record with the camera, but I recorded audio, and then I put in the videos that I was recording around when I was like going around, because some topics really interested me, like the traffic here, the art, how people here view this life, you know? Yeah.
That's really interesting that you said about the language as well. Like,
yeah,
you know, if they can communicate in English with you, maybe that's somehow better. But actually, I wondered whether we could start with playing your clip, Hassan.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, Laura.
So I feel like, especially in Cologne, the traffic might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
A bit
Did people hear this,
different
by the way?
from other German cities.
Yeah.
So I feel like, especially in Cologne, the traffic might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
A bit different from other German cities. It's a little bit like chaotic. The traffic rules are strict over here. Yeah. For families, it starts to be really difficult to get a proper place.
Yes.
And I feel since many years the division between the rich and the poor people is becoming more. You see a lot of art, street art also, and this is something that, from my understanding, this makes a place very lively. The street art you find over here, it's all official, respected by our local government also. In Cologne, we have really a big art scene over here, and young people are definitely involved. Competition, they sometimes might be helpful, because it's giving you a kind of motivation also to do something. So we have a lot of places over here where you find joint ateliers and where people work together. And so also not only in case of arts, you find more and more life communities also, where people start living together in houses where they share. Cologne has already its own identity, and I know from the past that especially if you look at the history of music, so a lot of good and new ideas came from here. If you think about Stockhausen or other composers who really created something very new after the Second World War. But I feel that art wouldn't be art if you don't have influence from everywhere. So since we are a very multicultural city over here, of course there are coming influences from everywhere. Whoever is interested to visit or explore Germany should really I mean, Cologne, the city Cologne should not be left out.
Yeah.
So the person should definitely come to explore art life in Cologne. And I guess there are some residences and people are welcoming people from outside. So people like travelers and artists from outside. So yeah, they're most welcome over here.
Awesome. So we were in Cologne, aka Köln.
But I think the last few clips were from Kampala, weren't they, Hassan? Is that right?
Yeah, the last clips were in Kampala. I did that because somehow when I was creating the video, I wished that I made this video in Kampala and such words were being talked about my city. Yeah.
Well, you may well be able to do that through this project, because you can without giving away too much, but the exercise we want to set you at the end of this session is to work with somebody else and get them to ask the questions that you want to ask. So yeah, although as a kind of although you're in Cologne, you're kind of representing Kampala, so we might send you towards UK. Anyway, at some point you could do that. That's a possibility.
I mean, what do people think? What kind of came through in this clip? Was there anything that kind of stood out, or what did you like? Maybe what do you think? Because obviously, just one thing to say, obviously, in the moment of recording the videos or interviews, it's like, oh yeah, you're in a moment. And then you listen to it, it's like, oh shit, I would have done it differently. I would have asked a different question or whatever. So I think everybody just needs to no, they've done a really, really good job.
I mean, that's part of the learning as well. You know, even I've been doing this 25 years, and they always think I could have asked a better question. And that's like, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, that's what I should have said. So you can always ask a better question. Ellen, you were going to say something. Come on, come on. Whoops. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I thought it was really nice the way you had the voiceover, the images of Cologne. So as you heard her talk about, her city, you could also see it really kind of brought you into the place. So I thought that was really nice. And if you want to do this in Uganda, I'm sure, like Mikey said, you can also do it because you have the footage already. So something tells me it wouldn't be too difficult. It would be good to see the comparisons.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of interesting as well, and I think...
Yeah. The questions that...
Go on.
The questions that now came up in my mind are like, I don't see, like, there is a lot of meat in the restaurants and everything, but I can't find anywhere that people are raising cows, like, where are the behind the scenes, and also where the rubbish goes, all these questions that came up later that I'm really interested in knowing, but maybe that's another day thing, because this time it was really good, and like I got to know the good part of the city.
So I've got a question, unless anybody else has got something to kind of remark on in terms of this clip that we just listened to. Timna, go ahead, in the studio. Timna in the studio.
This would work? Yeah.
Turn it around.
Yeah, I loved how she described Cologne and how she was like fan of Cologne. I think it's like, please come to Cologne and meet this city. Yeah. I really loved her like enthusiasm concerning her own city, which is great, I think.
So maybe it was a good advert for Cologne. Anyone else?
It was a good advert for Cologne.
Yeah.
I mean, even though she was saying a lot of bad things about it, I think that we can relate to, like the gap between the rich and the poor. It did, especially with all that street art, it looked like a very inviting place to go to.
I was wondering whether it would be possible to kind of push this person a bit more and say like, what, because I feel like I got a really kind of good general vibe of Cologne, but have no idea who this person is. And I wondered whether there was a possibility or opportunity to kind of ask them something, what they personally think about what's going on. And also, Stockhausen, like what even is that? I wonder whether we can press people just to kind of explain what they're talking about, because I don't know. I mean, I looked it up.
Yeah.
But yeah. But this is very good. Lucy?
yeah, no, again, if just on terms of feedback, I really liked the image overlay while she was speaking. I thought that was it just really added an extra layer. And it's just, yeah, interesting. There's some stuff when you say like there are commonalities across cities, it kind of made you then reflect on even just applying what she's saying into your own cities. I had feedback on like how I found the recording experience as well.
Go on.
Yeah, I just found it, so for everyone, hello, I'm Lucy, everyone. I wasn't here last time. And so for everyone, I did a recording and sent it through, and I actually had my earphones in the other room hooked up, and so it was just completely silent. So I had to do a different one. I went back to the same people. I was like, do you want to do it again? They were like, no. so I went and found someone else and did a completely different topic. The first one I did was on street art vandalism, and a really interesting conversation. But the second one was on identity, but it just made me realize, well, first of all, everyone was very apprehensive and really didn't want to do it, and was very like, where's this going? Like, and I was like, don't worry, completely anonymous, like it's just your voice. And they were like, okay, they both said, I feel way better not having my face on it, definitely. But when they got into it and just realized it was a conversation and a really stimulating conversation, they really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, getting this information out to them. And it kind of made me realize it's so kind of a lot easier than I thought, break the barrier of just going and I suddenly was like, this is how documentary makers do it. And it just for me, it was really powerful experience to be like, that was really much easier than I thought it would be. And for them, I think they really enjoyed it as well. So that was fun.
I think everybody, this is something that's feedback more to us. I think everybody had a tough job just to kind of come up with like 3 minutes of the clip. But as you just saying, I think sometimes you start with something and then you kind of begin to layer, it goes on, people relax, you relax into it, and that becomes a journey, which is really what we're into.
Yeah, I mean, we slightly stuffed it up. We messed it up because what we meant to say was do a longer conversation and give us 3 minutes. But I think a lot of people interpreted that as just do a 3 minutes. And in 3 minutes, you've got to say everything and then done. And it's not actually what we meant, but that's my fault, basically.
I personally, sorry, just in response to that, is that I have an inability to have a 3 minute conversation anyway. So it did just go on. And then for the one that I didn't manage to effectively send through, and the one that I did, the core best 3 minutes was right at the end when they like really relaxed and.
So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, one of our tricks that we do when we do Vox Pops conversations, we always say, right, that's done. Have you got anything else to say? And normally, because then people relax and then they say something quite considered that sort of sums up all the things they've said, or like, they've been through that process. And so for us, that's a really important thing to say at the end. You've done it, well done, good stuff, really good. Anything else you just like to add at the end, and then you get sometimes really good material. Then,
I agree. Okay, shall we listen to another clip and just see what happens? And by the way, we're not going to go through all of the clips. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, we just don't have time.
No. Okay, shall we have a little listen to maybe Totem's clip? It should be there somewhere. Yep. I'm just going to make a hot drink. Okay, Lucy, you can make a hot drink. Let's make a hot drink.
Lucy's going to make a cup of tea.
Just in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah. We're ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Arukot George, also known as Totem MC. And with my colleague here, who's going to tell us who he is. And then he would love to share something small with us. So, brother, tell us who you are and what you do.
Bless Lord, my name is Geoffrey Oriema, commonly known as Message. A dance member and a performing artist.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have a simple question. Do you feel like it's right to put plastic pollution issue in your postcard, in your background, if you to take a photo?
Why not? This is our waste. Product of our own consumption. So, why should I not put it?
Okay. So it's okay with you?
Yes, and there's no law that tells us not to put it.
So I want, yes. So there are people who feel it's not their right to really show whatever issues that is happening in that community, let's say the plastic pollution. Do you have something you can say about that?
Yes, it's their waste. Why do they have problems with it and they are creating no solutions toward it? What are they doing about their waste? These are the very people who, litter our environment, and they don't want to be seen with what they are doing, what the outcome is. Yes.
Okay. So, my other question is like, where do you think the trash goes? Like, let's say from the community, where does the trash go?
Many places. The collected ones are always taken to main dumping sites. There is that are not collected, and people that throw it on the way, this and that. Those are blown by the winds to different places, gardens, and many other places, and there are others that are washed by the rain, so yeah, to the swampy area and water wells.
Okay. So like, there are some that are blown and then they go to the swamps and...
Yeah.
Okay. My last question, like, okay, let's say you're a movement artist. What do you think is the role of arts? Is it to be lovely or provocative?
I think we work both ways, depending on the issue being put forward. Or what they're trying to communicate. Yes, art can bring out or provoke things in someone or a sad experience that is needed to be put out there.
Okay.
Pain can also, provocative pain can also make us understand and question. And that, we are not the only people suffering. Someone will hear your sad story and be like, oh, I thought I was the only person I was doing too bad. There are other people who are so low. So.
Okay.
And for the love, yes, continue that.
Okay.
It's always written on 2 pages. What is love without hate? What is hate without love? It's only when there's hate that we understand the meaning of love.
Of love, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. We're out. Thank you for your time.
Please ask.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, sound was a bit challenging, but hopefully you got a little bit out of it. I mean, any immediate thoughts? I mean, I personally just really liked how it was it was kind of 2 conversations. One was about pollution and where is it all going, and the other one was actually about the art and what is the role in the arts. So you kind of rolled in 2 things into this one conversation. How was that for you, Totem, or any other feedback, any thoughts, if you could hear the recording? Babwiri?
Yeah, I think personally I like the idea that it's sort of like an open space, and the way Totem provokes the conversation is like he wants to get something from his respondent. I think there's a lot of things to get from that, especially when they talk about pollution, they talk about the role of arts in community building. I like the reference to the hate and all that. So I think Totem sort of like exemplifies something that we need to see happening within this Talkaoke Skills Lab, having participants to be able to actually take up that role to spark conversations in communities. That is an example of what it is, and I think for you to actually have the ability to move the conversation from one point to another is something really amazing. So yeah, that's what I thought when I was listening. I totally understand he might have operated in a very noisy place, but at least you could get something coming out of that conversation. And I think for me, that's really amazing. And of course, also knowing that he stays in Gulu, which is sort of like at the northern side of the city center, far away, like some number of kilometers away from Kampala, the city. So it's a brilliant output. I don't know why he's actually not able to connect and talk a little bit, but it would be interesting to find out from him what he thinks and why that particular approach. Thank you.
So, question to you, Totem, how did you find it? How was that experience? And now that you've had a chance to record it, go through it, now we played the recording again, are there any different questions they would ask that person? Would there be any questions that you would seek clarification on, or are you quite happy with the direction?
Have we got MC Totem? Are you there? Totem? Talk to us, Totem? No.
I think he's struggling with the connection. We can just
But I mean,
move him.
yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things there. I think from, you know, obviously technically there was a lot of noise, background noise on the soundtrack.
I'd say there was a couple of recordings that we got with some restaurants,
children playing,
crockery noises. You know who you are.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's worth thinking about that when you make your recording. Think about the background noise because it comes across. Your ears will filter that out, but when you're listening to a recording, that doesn't always come. That can often really affect the recording, and we had quite a lot of people with a lot of background noise on the
speaking away.
So think about that when you make your next recording. Think about the background. Sometimes it's not always possible, but then the other thing you can do, if you are recording on a phone, just get that phone really close to the people's mouths.
And your own mouth if you're speaking, so that
exactly.
we've got levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
I think something that.
Oh yeah, go Henry. Go on.
Yeah, thank you. I think what stood out prominently for me listening to that recording from Totem, I felt a sense of trust between the interviewer and interviewee. I would have been really curious to know the relationship between Totem and the subject in question. But also beyond that feeling of trust, I also felt that he did a good job as an interviewer because he managed to transition from one point to the other. And towards the end, when he ties the conversation to a big question of what then, now that you're an artist, how do you see your role play in terms of some of the social issues happening around you? I think for me that stood out prominently, and I feel even as artists, we have a bigger role to play beyond just maybe using our craft to pass on a message, but we sort of have the mandate to influence social change. So I really felt that come out strongly in that conversation.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I think we should, now that Totem's back, we should get your perspective on this, Totem. But a really good point, Henry. I mean, there's a few good points there. There's a point about trust. There's a point about what we call, you know, the flow of conversation. Actually, as you build up the conversation, you start to ask new questions, which are kind of, you know, which are kind of making a journey as well. And, you know, I think especially with that, starting to talk about, you know, is it really true to say that it either has to be, you know, a kind of entertainment or provocative? Can it be both? And that we're starting to get to this kind of question. And, you know, I think in all of the interviews, what you see is this kind of movement from a very straightforward question to a very nuanced question at the end. Anyway, let's ask Totem we were going to ask him some questions. You were going to ask him some questions, Margaret. So maybe just put
I forgot what it was. That was like
I think it was, how was it for you? Really,
how was it for you, Totem?
Yeah.
And should you do this interview again, would you ask different questions? Would you do something differently?
Yeah, thank you so much. Are you guys hearing me? I was having a bit of difficulties with the sound.
Yeah.
Okay. I think like I can, if I'm to do the interview again, I can as well bring it in a different approach, you know. But like somehow you guys were asking the relationship between me and the person that I did interview. Is a close friend of mine. He's a dance artist and a yoga practitioner as well. So there's a way we connect with each other, because basically the reason why I chose to interview him because he was doing a research on waste management using his dance to really portray how communities can perceive what waste is.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like yes, I can do it in a different approach as well. You know, bring in some other questions if I can do the interview.
I mean, I think that came across that sense of trust, but obviously that's somebody that you know already. And I think what we want to do is get that sort of sense of friendliness to happen, even if you meet somebody that you've never met before.
And I think just kind of listening to all of their recordings, I think a lot of you have done that thing of, you know, which is like a very simple thing, but just like agreeing with the person, encouraging them on, just kind of like building that trust. And that can happen, you know, if you're recording something that is a podcast or an audio interview, maybe you would just focus on nodding your head as opposed to going, oh yeah, that's interesting, because then try to edit that into something smooth and try not to get frustrated, you know. So but I think, yeah, just kind of like getting the best out of the person and building that connection, agreeing and encouraging them along. I think that's really important. I wondered whether we could just very quickly play Louise's clip, maybe not all of it, but just like a little bit, if that's possible. And thank you, Titan, by the way. And yeah, really good one there. But yeah, maybe less background noise next time, but content very good.
Yep.
Okay, this is Louise, and I'm interviewing my husband Raymond about the trash question.
Hello.
Do you drop litter?
I'm afraid that, if I'm honest, yes, I'm sure I do. Not always on purpose, but in the past, I think I am as guilty as most people, if I'm being honest, yes.
Do you still drop litter?
Not anymore, I don't. I make a concerted effort to just not drop litter, but on occasion pick other people's up if I can.
How do you feel about people who do drop litter now?
Some people I think are just lazy when it comes to littering. I think maybe a very few people are actually malicious about it, and I do think that people do litter accidentally as well. So,
do you notice litter?
All the time, yes.
And how do you feel about litter in the street?
Well, I think that when it comes to litter in the street, I think if people
and so on and so forth. Anyway, hopefully you're still married. These questions were not kind of too direct, but I just kind of wondered. I mean, because you started on this kind of journey. You're going to talk about litter, and I would say that conversation was interesting, but then the person you were speaking to, they throw in like, oh, I used to throw litter, but not anymore. And I kind of want to know about that. Like, what's changed?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, how is that? I don't know. What do people think? You kept coming back to the litter question, but I kind of felt like maybe there were other bits. There were kind of little nuggets of information or leads that you could pursue, which could maybe take you to a new place. Maybe you would end up not talking about litter at all. I don't know. Oh, Ellen, you've got a point. It was a brilliant interview, really.
Yeah, it was really good, actually. But one of the things I do when I'm hosting is, you know, I always react to my curiosity. So like what Margot was saying, you know, like I always, if I'm like, oh, I wonder why they stopped, or even sometimes the more you do it, the more your curiosity will awaken and you will just react. So you'd be like, oh yeah, so what kind of litter were you dropping, you know? is dropping litter bad? You know, what changed? Like Margot was saying. So yeah, that's a little tip there. Just feel free to just react to your curiosity as it pops into your mind.
I mean, I think the way we like to do things at the People Speak is like, you know, we might have a list of questions, but as soon as somebody answers, we just kind of throw that out the window and actually, and actually go down that path that seems more interesting, like I mean, so it's about, in a way, going with the flow of the participant and letting them own it as well, I suppose, because that's their agenda, is, you know, this sense of change from, from an antisocial litterer to somebody who doesn't drop litter anymore.
So I mean, has anyone else found it in the questions? Did you feel like, oh shit, I really kind of, focused on asking this question, I must pursue it now? Did anybody feel that I must kind of go back to the main question, or just wondered. Go on, Robert. Oh, is that
so I like the conversation because it focuses on a key social aspect that we all need to sort of like think about. But I felt like the moderator sort of like was very sort of like the questions were not moving, It was, do you do this? And it was just one answer, yes, no. I try, So I felt like maybe there needed to be sort of like context into what this person was thinking about, So maybe if you don't, then what are you thinking about? How has that informed your perspective about littering within your community? I just wanted to get the perspective or the historical context, or maybe the characteristic context of this person that was being interviewed, which I didn't feel came out quite strongly. And I think part of this session is also to sort of like harness our skills to be moderators as we are actually getting these conversations, because sometimes whilst we're actually engaged in this process, we have to make it much more contextualized, get much more details from participants or respondents. So I think Louise did an amazing job to get, but like there was not very much that I would get from these participants or respondent that would actually help me sort of like guide me through their process when they were littering and when they were not, So I felt that didn't come through. But otherwise, the conversation was really amazing. Thank you.
I mean, I think one of the points here as well, I know we are kind of, I feel a little bit like we're picking on Louise here, but just because it's a nice example.
Because it was about litter picking.
It's about litter picking, exactly. But one of the things we like to do, one of the other techniques, is to go from the general, which is quite sort of inoffensive and quite, easy to invite. Like that was your husband you were talking to, so you can go, why did you drop litter? But it might be better to do, why do people drop litter? Or, is there a litter problem around here, which is much more general and allows people to come in. It's less challenging, and then move more to the personal as these facts become as they kind of unwind. You can get more and more personal, which is more interesting. The general is actually not that interesting, but it's a good sort of way of building up the trust with the interviewee, that we're both going, oh, people dropping litter, isn't that bad? And then, we get into it, we're already on the same side, and then we get into it, find out a bit more about what's going on and what's happening in the mind of that person later on. Lucy.
Hi. Really, really lovely recording. Thank you. And I was just going to say that I found like parallel. I think I just panic in the moments of silence that
Do I unmute my?
No, don't do anything.
I like panic in the moment of silence. I'm like, what's the next question I'm going to ask? Like, oh, they're listening to me not having a question. But I just thought that like there was the gap, and then you were like, do you pick litter now? It was like a nice comedic silence, and like may have been not intentional, but it kind of just, I need to constantly, as someone who talks a lot, reminded that being silent is okay, and like that gap is fine, and there's power in just like owning the silence, and that's something I need to remind myself, and I thought that was nicely done there.
I would just like to add also, there was something, quite comedic about this interview. I don't know what it is, and maybe that's just the thing about comedy, that you just don't know what it is. But I think if you can do an interview and, you know, make it fun and funny, I don't mean like, labor the jokes, but, you know, if you are so much relaxed and so much in the zone that you can just kind of react and just like find that kind of comedy, I think that's brilliant. That's just actually, you know, and kind of forget exactly what you were saying, Lucy. Am I asking the right question? Oh shit, is the silence too, like, if you forget about that, then people feel that you're in the moment, and actually it can go anyway, and it's actually really cool. But yeah,
I mean, and once again, it's this sense that you're working with the participant, the interviewee, you're working with them, you're creating something with them, so you're kind of going with their flow.
I mean, Louise, we just talked about your clip now so extensively that do you have something that you want to just like throw in there, or because we can just move on to the next one and then send you guys on a little task as well.
Sure. I think I was just I felt a bit constrained by the 3-minute mark.
Yeah.
And you know, and there was I do know him. I did want to grill him a bit, and usually when I do interviews, and I do with another show, and I let them go as long as they want, and I go and I follow their lead. But I just didn't think in 3 minutes. I don't know.
That's our fault for doing a bum steer, really, because what we really want was 3 minutes of footage, but it could be, you know, the interview could be an hour and a half long, as long as we didn't have to listen to the whole hour and a half.
Yeah, and I don't have the skills.
What's that?
No, I'm just saying, I at this point in my, I don't know how to do the editing on my phone.
We'll get to that, but thank you, Louise. I mean, we still got 2 minutes before we can send you on a task. I wondered, can we play Teddy's first few seconds? Is that all right? Teddy's like, oh no.
What you're going to ask me?
This might actually go out on Instagram. I am asking you what your thoughts are when it comes to transportation system that have some sort of class thing. Like there's a clear distinction between those who have money and those that don't. And in London, that's not so pronounced, or is it?
It's not if you're comparing it to like Canada and the US, where I'm from, because it's the opposite.
Which one are you from, Canada or the US?
Canada. It's people, who can't afford to own a car or own a vehicle. So it's kind of like looked down on if you take public transport.
Who looks down on you?
It's pretty bad. It's like a status thing. Well, everyone drives in LA.
The whole interview is really interesting, but I really want to focus on this beginning because I felt like you were really in the moment. It's like, who looks down on you? I really like that question because you kind of moved away from the potential for it to be like very general, be like, oh yeah, transport, inequalities, But I felt like you were in the moment. So which one are you from? Are you from Canada or US?
Yeah, I mean, that was really nice how you sort of got, you went from general to personal, but also in that movement from the general to personal, you went from really a discussion about public transport and class to a question about, she moved on to a question about status and perception of status. And I think that's really interesting, that movement to a related subject. And we in the People Speak, we like to say it's essential to be tangential.
And that might sound a bit weird, but sometimes when you go in a different direction, you actually discover something new when you come back to the original subject, because you're not taking that very standard approach where you just very logically dissect it in a very, obvious way. You're doing it in a not so obvious way.
Anything to say? Any views? Any kind of thoughts or any observations?
It was a lot of fun to do.
Hang on, let me turn you up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do, and there was actually quite a lot of editing as well. Like, I mean, the interview itself. No, not that clip, but the whole interview would have lasted, I don't know, maybe half an hour. Maybe. So and then as the interview goes on, I then started playing with the editing and tried to sort of almost manipulate or exaggerate a certain point that was made. So, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, great homework.
Nice. I guess my question is like, because I was trying to do a bit of editing and I have zero skills. It was a good tester of my editing skills. Is that like, when is that like line of, did they exactly say that? And if I'm editing for them to putting different answers together or phrases, like where's the line of like changing what they say? And yeah, that's just one to the room.
Say that again.
Like where's the like when you're cutting out people like what they're saying and you're like reforming the interview and like condensing it down, what's the line between like accurately representing what they're saying or trying to like get a message across that they may not have like necessarily been meaning in such a certain way? The power of editing, and the responsibility and ethics of it.
I mean, I think one of the things that we do, just kind of mention quickly, with the people with the Talkaoke, we record the whole thing. Sometimes whoever commissions us says, oh, can you do a highlights video? We can do a highlights video, but we won't be editing the audio of the conversation. It may go on for 4 hours. We will send them a 4-hour clip just because, it is about, I think that just because media, I don't know, the news is kind of making us used to the fact that, just people's attention span is 3 seconds. Here it goes. Here's the soundbite. I think we're quite consciously trying to push against that.
Well, I mean, sometimes you do need to edit stuff down for it to be palatable for an audience. And then it is a question. I don't think there is really an answer to that question. I think probably the first step is to be aware of that as a process, that you're by selecting certain things that people say, you are changing the context. So I think that's, I think be aware of it. I don't think there is an easy answer to it.
This is Eugene. I might have something to add to that.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think maybe to answer the question, it always comes from the side of what's the point of putting the recording together. And ultimately, the reason you're asking this person questions is to deliver a particular answer, is to serve a particular outcome. And I think that the reason they also agree to those responses, or to giving them responses, is to serve a very specific outcome. So I think the point always comes down to how do you edit in such a way that you still serve the outcome that you originally intended to. Because that's the one thing you, the interviewer, and the interviewee agree on.
My response, if I understood that correctly, sorry, my hearing's not great, so you're saying that like as the interviewer, you know the kind of question that you meant originally, and therefore you will edit it in that lens? Is that what you said, sorry?
Eugene? Uh-oh.
Have we lost Eugene?
No,
Hello?
Henry?
Okay, I think Eugene is back. I just wanted to share something small on that question. I feel that just like Mikey said at some point, that oftentimes you want to get a small bit of what an interviewer was sharing, something like a summary of what the entire conversation has been like. So I'm not so good at editing, but I want to believe that oftentimes this is the basis of what goes into an edited version or clip, because we want to carry that message. Even if someone watches it in a very short time, they're able to get what the entire idea was all about. So it may not be to the jurisdiction of the interviewer, but you just want to get what does the summary look like of the entire conversation.
Thank you.
I think there's one point as well to be made about what you said, Eugene, about considering the outcome. I think for us, it's not necessarily about reporting something, but about getting insight from people and getting their perspective. In the people speak way, that is the kind of priority there. So, and I think that's probably a difference to conventional reporting or news gathering, which is about we've decided the issue and we want to find out what people think about the issue. We're in a way more interested in what are the important issues for people.
For that person.
Yeah, for that person. Yeah.
Not general people.
So exactly.
On that note, I'm very keen for us to play a little bit of Kate's clip and a little bit of Rachel's clip, Laura, whenever you are ready.
Are we going to play them back to back?
Yeah, let's play them back to back. Rachel and Kate.
Yeah, either way, which one? Just about 40 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell me a bit about what you do?
Of course, yeah. I am a freelance musician and visual artist. So I do a mixture of different things involving both. The music side has in itself a diverse output. So I do a lot of community music, working with elderly people and lonely people or isolated people in the community, and we do kind of very accessible music workshops, often using our voice, encouraging creativity and bits of songwriting.
Hi, Alfie.
Writing. I also run a singing group for youth, like an after-school thing. Similar kind of ethos, really very creative, very accessible and not too kind of prescriptive with music. I'm the act of doing music and participating in it rather than the product itself. I think that's generally the ethos that.
And where is that?
One of them so with the elderly people, it's there's two sessions. One's in Leiston, which is it's a coastal town in Suffolk, and the other is in Saxmundham, which is not far from there.
Could you set the scene of Leiston? What kind of town? How big is it?
Leiston is it's a medium-sized town. It's, I guess.
Agreeing sounds ever made. How was that? This is just like, I know we said back to back, but I'm just
maybe just focus on this one.
Yeah. How was that? Did we got a very good kind of introduction to that person, almost like the covering letter for that person. But if you were to ask questions again, Kate, was there anything in that kind of introduction or the first question? And by the way, that was a very good open question that really kind of allowed the person to get into, I don't know, to kind of explain themselves, where they're coming from. But were there any things in that where you could that you would pick on now? Would you ask a different second question, for instance, or?
Yeah, I think I definitely fell into the trap of trying to do a 3-minute interview and it only becoming interesting, or not, I mean, it was interesting, but only getting to know what they think a bit later on. So I should have done a longer one and then taken a clip later on. In that beginning, it was difficult because I didn't want to interrupt him in the middle of saying about his work, which was really interesting. But maybe I should have done, because I had such a short time and gone, oh, tell me about the work with older people, for example. Yeah.
I mean, in a way, you know, it sort of depends a little bit as well on your kind of purpose. And we were a bit vague about what the purpose of this little interview was. So, you know, I think it kind of, it does depend what the reason for the interview. I mean, I think what I liked about it was this set the scene question, because I quite often like to use that as just a way to get people to go, you know, to go onto their own territory or their own kind of view, really. And so I really like that, the set the scene question. I do think if you do ask a question like that, you need time. You know, it's only fair then to give them the time to actually set the scene. I mean, yeah, and I think this point about encouraging is really important. We heard some affirmative noises from you.
I'm like a ghost.
I've learned over the years, if you ever see me doing Vox Pops interviews, I'm like nodding like this, going like that, because it's not on the soundtrack. So, you know, it makes it a lot easier to listen to, but it looks really funny with me going,
I can confirm
really
it looks really funny.
overdoing the affirmations.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, let's have a quick play of thank you, Kate. Now, Rachel's.
How do you get the community involved in art? By not presenting it as art. I think that's one way of doing it, because I think using the term art can be very intimidating to the general audience and seen as sort of like a elitist group that's very judgmental and inaccessible. So doing it, just removing the title of art from, that kind of language thing. Yeah, you need to break the boundaries between different social groups, classes, and I think to do that, there's removing the element of art. And so you can still do an arty thing or have conversations around subjects that are going to relate to art, but just removing that one word could make things so much more accessible, I think. Sure. Yeah. Can you repeat the question again? Sorry. How do you get the community involved in art? I think you're right about how it's presented. It's quite important.
Sorry, this was just a short clip, but what I liked about it as an example is sometimes, you know, you kind of have to get into a zone to kind of like stay on track. So I think that kind of involves a lot of listening from the person doing the interview to be able to just to kind of give that speaker a prompt. And it's like, actually, this is what we've been talking about. Actually, it doesn't matter about the question because you said this thing now. And also, I think when we answering a question, I think that happens to everyone possibly, where you kind of start talking and then you're just talking, you just don't know why. I have that quite a lot, but you know, and I think that's something, I think that speaks to the kind of concentration, but also you later developed this, but you started talking about the art and maybe we should remove the words, the language. I felt like you were very much in agreement on this, and I was kind of curious about, you know, maybe asking a question that teases out, provokes some kind of maybe different response.
What do you mean by that? Okay.
What I mean by that is I felt that you were almost kind of you weren't completing each other's answers, but I felt like you had this very similar view of the art and how it creates a barrier, but I would have wished that you'd gone more into detail. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, it'd be good to understand what that's about and go deeper. We always like to go deeper into into find out what's going on there, because it's an interesting point, and it's kind of counterintuitive as well that the word art would actually stop people being creative. Yeah, I mean, it's not, once again, that's not easy in 3 minutes, and that I feel bad now about the whole 3 minute thing. Mind you, if we'd got a whole load of 15-minute interviews, we'd be here till 6 o'clock. Anyway, but yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
And I will just kind of drop very quickly, just referring to your clip, Timna. I know we haven't listened to it, but I think because your question was about identity, it's in a way, it's such a huge subject. And that person that you spoke to, they kind of drop different aspects, what makes their identity. Again, it's similarly, I would have wished that you kind of drilled in on something, but maybe that wasn't as easy because maybe you didn't know them that well. But I think this is where the interest is. I think, especially when you've got like barrage of these big words, the arts or identity. I mean, Jesus, like everybody's got so many different things that, you know, constitute the answer. And yet somehow we just go like, oh yeah. Participatory art, I think I know
it
that.
is good to get that personal feel about that. You know, what do you personally think about the word art, or what do other people that you've spoken to tell us a little bit more about, also concrete examples of like how the word art has turned people away. Maybe you're outside an art centre and then a big group of young people came along and then they saw the word art and just ran away. I don't know. What was the actual story that led to that observation, Lucy?
I was just going to say, because my one was also on identity, and I asked, like, so what forms your identity? And they're like, well, that's valid when I was born. I was like, she's like, my parents, I was just like trying to find like, okay, tell me like,
but I mean, I think one of the interesting things about your piece was how even that notion of identity shifted as you had the discussion. What people thought about it with identity actually changed, and when you actually start to use your own experiences, there's a thought process going on, there's some thinking, and actually a change of opinion actually happened in that interview, which to me is like. Anyway.
And Kate, you had a hand up. Sorry, missed that earlier. Do you want to still bring in a point? Sorry, that may have been like from ages ago, but.
Me?
Yes, or was that? Sorry, because I just saw a message saying Kate.
Oh yeah,
hand up.
it was just about Teddy's. It was just I noticed it because we were talking about maybe with people you don't know, you can't go in that quickly with a more provocative or more direct question. But I noticed that Teddy did, and it was great because he used exactly their words, which was "look down on me." And I feel like if he'd like use a different word, like "why do these people not like you?" that would have been really horrible. But because he used their exact words, it didn't feel wrong to do that, and was really interesting.
Thank you for being so honoured, Kate. This is one of the big things that if we don't forget, we talk about that, which is where possible, use the words that the person is using. I think that's a really big one. Okay, now that we've almost run out of time for a task. I hope you don't have to like rush immediately, but we just have this little task to do, and we would like to pair you up. I think you can just pair yourselves up, or I can just do it randomly.
I would say just because we're running out of time, you're going to have to be the assigner.
Okay, I'm just gonna assign a few breakup rooms, and the idea is that we want you just to do a quick interview, and obviously the pairs are going to be UK and Uganda. So I'm just gonna throw you into pairs, and the idea is to interview.
This is a little bit of a experiment, so it may not quite
experiment on the old.
But bear with us, and we're going to go. I think it's important to do this. We did go on a bit longer about the feedback from last time sessions, but I think let's just get on with this and try and use some of the ideas that we talked about just now in a little exercise.
Yes.
Okay, we've got some more headphones around and about. Okay, so this is more tricky for us in the studio because we want everyone to go off in their own space.
Hopefully you would have your pairs now. And people in the studio. So how do we want to do it, Mikey? Do we want to do an interview? Go to the bathroom. It's okay. It's a good spot. I've done a breakout room from there before. What I was going to say is maybe based on what we discussed, and based on the fact that maybe it's good to get to the other person's life, and maybe there are questions that you want to ask that person, or do you want some kind of clarification or something that just interests you about them, or where they're from, or what their interviews were about. We'd quite like you to have another go interviewing and then switch, but we will let you know when to switch. I like to.
Yeah, interview each other. Yeah.
Any topic you want, you can just. I would say maybe focus on going with the flow.
Yeah, go with
and just
the
see
flow.
whether it can be in the moment. Don't have a set question in your mind necessarily, but.
How long have we got for this for?
5 and 5 minutes.
Okay.
What?
Maybe give it a bit longer, because I think it will maybe like.
Because you want to switch as well.
Yeah, so maybe let's say 7 minutes. 3 minutes each.
7 and 7.
Yeah. Oh, 5, you're saying 5 and 5?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 5 and 5. Yeah, good, great.
5 and 5.
Everyone's gone anyway now. You
Yes.
should be in a breakout room, yeah. Have you?
You are in a breakout room
Yeah,
with Hassan.
yeah. Oh, no, you're in the main room, so you just you're, maybe
I
just.
see. So
Yeah.
you need to go into breakout rooms, Hassan.
Yeah.
I lost the link.
Okay, we'll send it to you again, we'll send it to you again. Yeah.
I'm moving you to a new room. I don't know how that goes. Hopefully
Okay.
well.
Hopefully.
If you're struggling, then we are also struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to get there.
You don't know how to go into the breakout room, Hassan?
Yeah.
You should have
Because they're both on
appearing
phone.
on your
I mean, to be
screen.
fair, the both of you are in this room, so you
Yeah,
could
just do it here. We'll
you could
just
do it in
shut up.
front of us. We'll be quiet.
Okay.
So you've got Lucy, Hassan, Lucy.
Okay, Mikey,
talk
shut
to
up.
each other. I'll shut up.
We can go to the kitchen. Tim, not you, okay?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Amazing. Hi, hello. Hi, nice to meet you. Oh, and now that I've got the reverb coming through these earphones. Sorry, thank you, sorry. Hi,
Nice to meet you.
what was your, yeah, we listened to your interview right at the beginning. It was the Cologne one, right?
Yes. No, from Cologne.
So where are you at the moment?
I'm in Cologne at the moment.
Captain Obvious over here. So I'm guessing, so I guess it's my 5 minutes now, and then we switch.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did it on identity, so I'm just gonna continue on identity. So I guess like the first starting question is, there's so many different things that contribute to our identity, but what do you think is something that, I don't know, if people were who know you would be quite surprised to find out is a core part of your formation of your identity? What do you think that would be?
I think people who know me. I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Just so something that is surprising that formed your identity.
I think something that's surprising that formed my identity was the moment I decided to like create from my brain, like because in most cases creation is more like following trends and everything like that. But when I started to challenge myself to create from the inside, then I got an opportunity to discover what I am, like for real. So, and on this journey, I've been like showing the process to the people around and surprising them and challenging them too, like that.
So kind of like the moment that you decided to be, I guess, is it like creative, like the moment that you like made the decision internally?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and you said that there's that kind of moment where you like showed others. What did that look like? What were you doing when you kind of brought other people into that internal decision?
Yeah. So, like mostly the people around me, they're like whenever I get this idea and I execute it, they're like, oh wow, how did you think about that? And I'm like, yeah, but you can also think about it, like if you search inside you, like you can always come up with such results because it's in you.
Yeah, so sorry, just to catch that. So you said that lots of people are like surprised about how you have come up with something so creative. And so do you feel like you're with a lot of people that aren't so creative?
I don't feel like I'm with a lot of people who are not creative, but I think that a lot of people don't follow what's in them. Like people are more following. Like most people don't express themselves to a personal level. Most people like just follow trends or like follow a guideline that was already put up. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like art is supposed to mean this, painting is supposed to mean this. Like I like to take an extra step to challenge myself to redefine maybe creation or art, or you know.
Yeah, completely. So it's just not following any of these rules that are set out for us, and kind of, is that the kind of thing that is different? People find it surprising, or maybe hard. Do people find it hard to understand that you're kind of not following these kind of set rules?
I think it's still so confusing, but that's the beauty of it, you know, like because like most people know that this should be like this, or this should be like this, and it's really scary when you cross the line and show them otherwise, you know.
What was that thing where, did you have a moment where you crossed that line and you're like, apparently it changed you? And what was that moment where you're like, I crossed it and I want to see it?
Yeah, so like for example, art in my country, it's like most people are doing a specific form of art, you know, like if a person is painting, they're painting. If a person is doing photography, they're doing photography. And in the beginning, it was really hard for me to prove to people that I can do whatever I want. If I want to do photography, I'll do the photography. And they're always like, like, what's the point? Because always there are also these guidelines. But for me, I'm like, if I want to tell a story with photography, I'll use photography. If I want to tell a story, a personal story with painting, I will learn how to paint and tell the story. If I want to tell a story by a documentary, I will learn how to edit videos, how to shoot a moment I like, and then I tell the story.
And so you say, actually, switch over. Can I ask my last question is that you said that people are like, oh, why do you take photography? But it sounds like for you, it's telling stories. That's the thing that drives you. Yeah.
Like for me, it's exposing who I am, like on the inside, you know, because like I want to show what I think or what I feel about different things. Yeah.
Amazing. I think we're switching now. I think that's Thank you very much. That was really interesting. It's good to get
Thank
to
you so much. Yeah.
Level. Yeah.
Rachel and Isaac, can you hear me? No.
Yeah. So we'll proceed.
Yeah.
What does identity mean to you?
It's funny because I've asked people this question, and I do this a lot, as I ask people, what is this kind of very complex, deep thing that I expect a big question, and I don't actually know how I'd answer it myself. I think identity for me are maybe the different things that I do that I feel good, make me feel good, make me feel stimulated, and like, I guess, nourish my soul are the things that I enjoy and affiliate with, that I think are core to my identity.
So interesting answer. This is like a question. If there was a statement that, if someone asked that, do you know really who you are, would your answer be yes?
No, well, it depends who you are. That's a really good question. Because I don't think I think of who I am. there's a difference between who I think I am and how I come across. And I think I know who I am and what I mean, but sometimes I also don't know how I feel about things. And sometimes I have reactions to things that can be quite extreme and emotional. And I don't like that necessarily. And I'm like, oh, that's not how I would like to be responding. I don't know why I've had that response. So, and then I have to like really sit with myself and think about it. So I think I know who I'd like to be, and I also don't know necessarily how I'm received all the time. And if it's especially in the way that I'm intended to be received, because it depends on the giver and the recipient, the communicator and the receiver. So that's a bit of a complex answer.
Yeah, interesting. I have one last question. I think we're out of time, right? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'll be out of time. One more minute.
So I believe that this journey is like a process, and there is always like a beginning. Like for me, I haven't been this way from when I was young. So when did it occur to you, and how did it occur to you that you found out about your identity?
Oh, interesting. Well, I think it changes, and I guess mine is like things that bring me joy and nourish me. So it kind of is like, just as I continue to develop, my identity changes. There are things obviously that are to do with my family that I think are core to my identity. But yeah, so I think it's like a constantly evolving process. I pick up a new hobby, say. I like cycle a lot. I like to cycle. And that for me now is like core to my identity. But before I started to do that. So it's just an ever evolving process, I think. But it's interesting to think if my identity was different before I picked something up, like say 5 years ago, am I a different person to then? Because I think I am the same person, but did I have a different identity to who I have now? I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like always there is elevation. Wow, we're just the same person.
What's that, sorry?
I feel like there is always like elevation. You elevate in positions, but always it's the same person.
Always the same person,
Yeah, it's really nice to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Yeah, no problem. Lovely to get to know you a bit better.
Yeah, me too.
So so if you guys have finished, I've just been giving people like notice to switch.
Okay.
So hopefully they switched. Hopefully they understood.
I'm gonna, if there's a minute, there's a supermarket opposite, and I really need a cup of tea. I don't think you guys have. You have like black tea bags. Yeah. Black tea. Oh.
It's in the pink tub.
Oh no, I'll grab.
It's like a pink thing with flowers on it.
So shortly he will come back and we'll just have a chit chat.
Yeah. Okay, we need to probably turn these ones up. So.
We just need to give him 5 minutes, so I reckon 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes, okay.
And then we can bring everyone in. Oh, in fact, wait, I can do this function where
You give them a little
broadcast message to all. Has broadcast to all.
I think we are running a little bit over time here. Hello? Oh yeah. Well, we are running a little bit over time, so maybe it's time to bring
everyone in.
It doesn't matter if we haven't done it perfectly.
Close all rooms. They will close in 60 seconds. I told these guys.
Element in doing that.
They know they're coming in. They've switched already.
Okay. We're closing this up. So how was that, Hassan?
Yeah, it was really informative to find out how Lucy thinks about life and identity. Yeah.
And our cups of tea.
Yeah.
The essential fuel. No.
Don't make your tea.
Make it like.
We're not talking tea.
It's actually surprising that she asked for tea. A lot of people here drink coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, really? It's mostly coffee. We're mostly coffee-based studio, but
Yeah.
welcome back, people. Did everybody manage to switch? Did you have a go at interviewing one another? That's if you can hear me. I don't know.
Give us a thumbs up if it's a yes or a thumbs down if it was a no.
Hopefully it's thumbs up, but you just never know.
Yeah.
Well, Timna and Ella are still having a chit chat outside. Teddy's making a way back.
Bang on the door. Yeah. Okay. Teddy, make sure you leave audio before coming back into the main space. Yeah.
No, I think it's all fine.
Okay.
Yes, please.
All right, so we're back in the main room. Hopefully,
welcome back, people.
We listened in on Lucy and Hassan's conversation, which is very interesting.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
So how was that for people? Any kind of highlights, considering that we are 6 minutes over time? Kate, thank you for switching. You switched.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, so it felt like a one big conversation. So it didn't feel okay. So you just kind of flowed from one to another. Do you want to say more about that, or great pairs, said Timna? No idea what she might mean, but I can see the visualization behind me though.
Yeah, oh, the pairs. I see. Yeah, that's a
as
gag
it would appear.
That's a gag from Laura that we haven't.
The visual gag.
Picked up on, yeah.
Well, Timna did.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't pick up on. I should say. Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe we should hear from those who haven't spoken at all to give us the experience of how it was.
Okay, that's a very good idea. Let's focus on those people who have not said that much yet, and let's just hear back from how it was. So I'm going to pick on Baba. Tell us how it was.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm through. Beautiful, quick couple seconds of literally getting to the depth of what we all represent. And I felt like I was just about to dive in more on the practices that were being shared. It's being utilized to bring community. I was just like, wow, they have such powerful, instigative ways to engage people. Like, she's been doing an incredible theater, and I'm using my platform. The relations were deeply what we represented, and the value. Right away, it felt like we knew each other from jump or have ever. So, the interactive session.
So it was. So you kind of your one spirit split into two people.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't getting all the words there, but the ones we were getting were quite positive. So
yeah.
I'm assuming that the words we didn't get were also positive, but sounds like it was a good experience.
Anyone else wants to share? I was going to say quickly, but in normal time.
Yeah.
Just you don't have to speak twice as fast. But how was it for you? What kind of stuff did you ask people? What did you end up talking about? Because it's like a super open brief. Like, go and have a conversation about anything. Apparently, you're having conversation about what?
Let's pick on. Yeah. Who are we going to pick on next? Somebody else.
Who's picked themselves?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Can I?
Oh, Henry.
Henry, go on, Henry.
Okay, thank you. So I was in a room with Teddy, and I noticed a lot of similarity between the kind of work that we do as a community development worker, and Teddy is in the business of creating spaces for people to express themselves and all. I think that was quite an interesting insight, and I also, in a very short time, managed to know about his childhood. One of the questions that I was super excited to hear him answer was if his upbringing or childhood influenced his line of profession or the kind of work that he does right now. And absolutely, yes, it did. And I noticed that the same pattern in mine as well. So I don't know if this is true for the rest of the people, but it was a good observation for me to make in quite a short time.
I mean, that's one of the things is, in a way, what we're wanting to do is actually, there's a tension because obviously we've got techniques that we use that we're trying to show to other people, but at the same time is we want you to develop with each other and come up, you know, in a way in this space, create new connections and create things that we haven't thought of. So, you know, and it seems like that is happening already through these conversations. So that's excellent. So, you know, it's not just about us giving them techniques, but also discovering connections that we possibly haven't thought of. I just said that twice, which is what people tend to do. But
they make a point and they make it again.
Make a point. We're going to go with that in later sessions. We're going to go into how to actually stop people from making points again and again and again when they've made it once, and that's fine. Anyway, Totem, you had your hand up.
Yeah, actually, me, what I wanted to say, basically, I was in the room with Katie, like, got to know each other, like she does a lot of theater directing, and then also I do like creative production. So we kind of we got to know what each other does, like what different like people, what she does, and then what I do. And then we exhausted some other topics, like how do we get the community involved or someone involved in your project? Let's say if you're a theater producer, and then you have a project you want to put out, and then you're struggling with getting participants or artists engaged. So I think like it was a great experience, you know, like it was great, like, you know, having the interview with her. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so so you're in a pair with Kate Totem, is that right? So so that was the kind of switch of the conversation and kind of continuing. But I mean, I think since it's 42 minutes past 12, and we have been looking at screens for a long time, I think it's probably time to finish. But before we go, please make a note of who are you in pair with. I know I have. And maybe exchange contact details with them. The reason being is that between now and the next session, which is on Saturday, the 2nd of April.
The 2nd of April.
Even.
Yeah.
We would like you to take these 2 weeks to do some more interviewing, but this time, because it is about intercultural collaboration, and do remember that at the end of this, we will want to create an event together. We will be exploring some themes. Maybe there are some themes coming through. I feel like we are just kind of like throwing them all up in the air. There's lots of things, but at some point, we would like you to come up with a theme for the event that we will do, or themes, plural. So as a way of kind of teasing that out and getting to know each other and getting to kind of work in that intercultural context, we would like you to, with your pair, arrange another set of interviews, except that if I'm in London and I'm going to be paired with Wabwiri, I would be Wabwiri will help me connect with someone in Uganda, and I will be asking that person a set of questions. So there'll be no danger of me interviewing anyone that I know. So this is kind of whom I'm not going to interview.
Sophie.
Maybe Sophie, exactly, or Baba could interview them, but I won't. So the idea is to interview another person from the other country via the medium of your pair.
It could be on you could use WhatsApp, you could use Zoom, you could use a different platform, but we want you to do the same thing, but you're working in a pair now, so it's up to the person who's on the ground to find the participant, and it's up to the person who's online to find the questions.
That's true. And I think we're going to go for this kind of benchmark 3 minutes. but it will be about your experience. So be prepared to kind of talk about it on the day. And I think with you, Timna, I mean, Wabwiri, would you be Timna's pair? Because we've not. Oh. No, it's a different Wabwiri. So
that's yeah.
This is a dual identity there from Wabwiri. So Totem, Baba is with Louise.
No, Baba's with
Louise.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay, you know.
But he's called Wabwiri on this call, and Wabwiri.
Yeah,
called Wabwiri.
I think because Baba used the link I shared, so
yeah.
Nice one. So the real Wabwiri, please wave.
Please stand up.
So please stand up, and then.
But there's also another. Someone else is coming in as Wabwiri as well. Who is that?
that is Sophie. So they both use the link I shared.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, so maybe Sophie.
Yeah.
So Sophie, can you fake Wabwiri, aka Sophie? Can you show yourself? Are you there?
You're very quiet, I think.
Anyway, we'll sort it out. Oh yeah. Hey Sophie. So Sophie, can you be paired up with Timna for this interview, for this next task? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Fantastic. So people, drop your email addresses in the chat. If you want to be put in touch with a person, please do it. But this way is much easier for us. So you can just take control of contacting your person.
There's a question.
Lucy, you've got a hand up, but yeah, go on.
Which is,
Okay, well,
it's less about the collaboration and conversation between the pairs and more about actually us facilitating a communication through another person. So we're not expected to have another conversation with each other again.
No,
necessarily.
Exactly. This is, well, you will end up having conversation, but it's about a third person.
Right, okay, cool. Got it.
It's about a third person that's actually going to be out there. You can, if you're struggling, it can be the same person that you've interviewed before, or it can be a new person. It's up to you, really. But it's about trying to. This is an experiment for us. We've never done this, so you know.
If we were able to be based in Kampala, or if Kampala or Uganda crew, if you could come to London right now, then you would be walking on the streets and interviewing Londoners, and we would be interviewing people in Kampala or Gulu or wherever you are. But we have to use the medium of someone.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
Yes.
But also, I just wanted to mention that we'll be sharing the contacts so that at least you have contacts of the Ugandan participants in this project and also those of the UK, so you can easily connect with each other.
Yeah.
Yes. Does everybody know what's expected of them? And do you have a contact to your pair right now? And you can drop them a line later.
And
Lucy's asking, Hassan, what's your email address? Baba, as Wabwiri, shared his email, so hopefully that's okay, Louise.
Does everyone accept their mission that we've given them?
Is there a deadline?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, so the next session is the 2nd, but in order for us to go through all of the recordings, we just need a little bit of time. So I will send you the deadline. We'll just have a look at the diaries, but I reckon, if you can turn it around in a week, if you can do it by the end of next weekend, by Sunday, that'll be amazing. But yeah, but we're very conscious that it's almost like setting up 2 sets of interviews between the pair.
Yeah, so let's do this both ways.
And there's a time difference as well, remember.
So there's actually 2 tasks here. One will be to go out in Uganda and do an interview, and one will be to go out in the UK and do the interview. So you've all got to make 2 recordings, 1 recording each. So the person in the UK makes the UK recording for the person in Uganda, and the person in Uganda makes the Uganda recording for the person.
I'm sorry, I feel like an idiot. I don't. So we will. It was 3 people. We don't kind of like hand over an email, or facilitate.
No, so for example, what's the name of the person that you interviewed?
Jen.
Jen.
Yes.
So for example, Hassan would ask Jen the questions, but because Hassan's actually in his case in Cologne, he would ask it via WhatsApp or via Zoom to Jen.
I wouldn't be there though.
You would be there because you have to ask the questions for Hassan or pass them on.
Or need to get Jen in the room.
Yeah, so you're doing.
So he messages them to me. So I'm sorry, maybe we can talk about, I'm probably wasting everyone's time that I
No, I think it's good. I think ideally what would happen is like you would help Hassan facilitate a conversation with absolutely anybody from London. You'd get them in the room where they are able to sit down and answer some random questions. And then on that day, let's say 6 o'clock tomorrow, the three of you are around and Hassan would connect to you on Zoom and he'll ask that person a question. You're not saying anything. You've done your facilitation.
You've still got a role because you've got to make that person feel comfortable. You've got to get the person in the room and you've got to put the phone or whatever device you're using in front of their face. And then Hassan will go out in Cologne. What's the name of the person that you interviewed last time? Hassan? The German lady?
Oh, wait, she's called Catherine.
So maybe it will be Catherine, maybe it will be someone else, but Lucy will be on Zoom and you will be
with
Catherine or somebody else, and Lucy will be asking the questions.
Yeah. And make sure people that there's no background noises, that everyone's heard. Do no
tweeting in the background.
No tweeting, tweet afterwards. And that's it. I mean, unless, and obviously if you've got kind of questions, if you start doing it and go like, actually, I have no idea, just give us a shout and
And what I might do
Louise, you've got a hand up.
Yeah.
And the theme, is that something that we come to together?
I think the theme is just something that you are interested in, because I think we're just trying to narrow down what are the themes that we want to kind of talk about in our final event, but you just go with whatever theme interests you. Have a look at the list of the old themes, maybe something that we talked about today, or maybe something that person says, and you can make a case for it at the next session. I think we might, and maybe if there are some themes, just maybe have prepared a theme that you want to kind of say, this is what I'm interested in, but I will email about that, so don't.
So say Baba and we could have a conversation and just get going and discuss things that interest us and come to something together.
Yeah, you can have interviews on similar themes, but obviously 2 separate interviews, but
I mean, I think it would be interesting as well because you'd get 2 different perspectives on that theme.
Maybe that is the way to do it.
It's kind of up to you. I mean, I hope that makes sense. Any other questions?
Oh, one more.
Okay, Timna. Okay, let me turn you up first, and like I said, I'll turn you down. Here you go.
What will you do with the recordings? I'm just asking because the person whom I recorded last time, she just wanted to know, and I thought I exchanged email address, and I told her that I would let her know just in case you would want to pop it onto Instagram or something like this. Okay.
I mean, it's just for us at this point. Later on, we might be, when things move forward.
We'll get back to that person. So maybe it's a good thing to get people's email addresses if you want to come back to them. All right. Oh my God, the session's like mega long. Okay, bye everyone.
Okay, what I'm going to do then, I'm going to play the outro music.
Which is a short sign.
If anyone wants to, we in the studio last time, we just were hanging out and chatting. That's your question. We've already answered that question, I think, haven't we? So we're just going to be here for an extra few minutes if people want to just